Yes, welcome back to my channel. We are live at the Convention Center where we have the Shift Conference organized by Pastor Sam Adeyemi. Shift Conference is organized by Global Leadership Academy by Pastor Sam Adeyemi. We've had wonderful speakers, anchor this program today. And I just wanted to listen, sit tight and enjoy. We had speakers like Dr. Gabriel Ogbechie, who talked about entrepreneurial shifts. We also had speakers like Mrs. Ibuku Mushika, who also talked about leadership shifts by women, and also other amazing speakers, and our own dear Pastor Sam Adeyemi. I just wanted to sit tight while I take you through every version and every speaker, how they gave an insight to how you get shifts for the 2025. So you just listen, sit tight, and hear what every speaker has to say. Thank you.
Great transformation begins with a shift of mindset, of vision, of action. In times of change, leadership is not about standing still. It's about seeing ahead, adapting, moving. The difference between stagnation and success is one decision, one pivot, one bold step. You can't be a spectator. Great leaders don't wait for the shift. They create it. And now, to guide us on this journey, please welcome the convener of the Shift Leadership Conference, Dr. Sam Adeyemi.
Welcome everyone to the Shift Leadership Conference Lagos 2025. On Wednesday, the 8th of February 1995, people heard my voice on radio for the first time in Nigeria. Actually, I had my own voice too. I was out with my sweetheart, Dr. Nike, with our daughter on a hospital visit. And I took excuse to dash out to the car, put on the radio, and I heard, dun, 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 dun. And I said, welcome. The success power. I'm Sam Adeyemi. Today we'll be discussing the power of persistence. This journey began the year before. In the early part of 1994, I experienced several disappointments back to back to back. And it was like the doors were closed against me. I became desperate, So the Monday after Easter, I said to Dr. Nike, I said, let's go to the beach. But unlike before, usually we would go to the beach on the Monday just to play. I said, this time we're praying and fasting. I need to know what's the next thing to do. The answer would come to me sometime at the end of June 1994, and it was a composite idea, and obviously it wasn't a product of my mind, because what I got defined a new me altogether. I saw myself going on the media, going on radio, going on TV, to teach people basic principles for success. I saw myself organizing conferences like this one and writing books. And then I saw that the vision was so large, I would not be able to do it where I was at that time, employed as a pastor under another church. And I saw there was going to be a church where we would practically practice the things I was teaching. And here we are, 30 years down the line. Let me back up a little bit. The first thing I did was I spoke to the church where I pastored at that time and told them, this is what's on my mind. I'm going on radio. Right after that service, two gentlemen walked up to me. Two gentlemen that I would never forget, because they were obviously God sent. Both were working at an advertising agency at that time. They said, you mentioned radio. Can we talk to you for a few minutes in your office? I had a small church office then. They asked me to describe what I saw. I described it. They asked me if I had a name for it, and then said I should give them 2 weeks. They came back with a report, typed, printed, with graphs and charts, showing all the radio stations that people listen to in the Lagos area, the percentages of men and women that listen to them, and then they made their recommendation. They said, there's a new radio station. Right now, it's getting people's attention. It's definitely going to rise in influence. We think we should rise with it. And the name of that radio station was Ray Power. When it came to creating the name for our broadcast, they asked me, do you have any name? I said, well, maybe Destiny Hour or something, as a church boy. Those two gentlemen, Mr. Tayo Suleiman and retired Captain Wright Orebi, he ended up being public relations officer for the Canadian Air Force. Very brilliant gentleman. So Mr. Suleiman came to our house sometime later and said, I got the name for your program. It is Success Power. So that we can have Success Power on Ray Power. He said, wow, sounds good. Should I be honest? I was a bit disappointed because I'm a creative person myself. In fact, sometimes I wish I was a copywriter. So I thought, no. I'm the originator of the vision. I'm the one that should get the name. For 3 days, I was trying to beat that combination. I could not. Because this man was working in the area of his talent. So I gave him Success Power on Ray Power. As we celebrate the 30th anniversary of Success Power, my mind goes back, to this long journey. 30 years. Right the day after the first broadcast, a lady went to our office and dropped some money. She said, what I heard on radio yesterday was so good, I wanted to continue. A gentleman who was a journalist came from a very long distance to our office, said he had made up his mind to take his life. But on hearing that broadcast, he changed his mind, that he was not going to die anymore. We've had stories upon stories upon stories since then. In recent times, I was on a flight with our team from Toronto to Atlanta. We had just held the Dear Leader Conference there last year, June. So as we got into the terminal in Atlanta, this lady walked up to me and said, excuse me, are you Pastor Sam Adeyemi? I said, yes. He said, I'm one of your most ardent non-Christian followers. I'm a Muslim. My mom made me to listen to you on radio when I was 10 years old. Now I am 40, so you better know I've been following you for 30 years. I said, wow. Amazing, amazing stories of transformation. So today, as we share our story, I am fervently hoping that someone here will respond to the challenges in their own lives like I did then. That someone will not succumb to their fears and doubts, but rise in their spirit. A former justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, Oliver Wendell Holmes, said, "The things that lie before us and the things that lie behind us are tiny matters compared to the things that lie within us." There is something inside us that is bigger than our challenges, bigger than our environment. And if we can tap into that thing that God put inside us, then we can take the limitations of our imaginations and have dreams of a better future. Raising money, right, was a challenge. I remember the day we were having a meeting in preparing to launch Success Power. And they said, oh, the first quarter will cost 120,000 naira. Let me put it in context. At that time, my monthly salary was 8,200 naira. Now you say we need 120,000 naira. I almost screamed. Then I remembered I was the leader of the team. So I spoke to myself inside. I got home, I wrote radio broadcast, 120,000 naira. And on a small postcard, I stuck it on the wall. One way or the other, the money came, right? The first person, wrote on a small sheet of paper, someone who was having challenges with her business, she said, how about the radio broadcast you spoke about? I said, well, we're on it. They say airtime would be 75,000 naira. She said, oh, I need to write my own pledge now. When I opened the envelope later, she had pledged 75,000 naira. Some days later, a lady walked into my office and said, my husband and I decided to support this broadcast. We have a check for you in here. I checked it. It was 150,000 naira. So for the person who is wondering, who is thinking, oh, I can't afford it, I don't have the money, well, the other word for money or material provision or material wealth is provision. You break up the word, you have pro and vision. And pro means for or towards. So you attract resources to fulfill the vision. If you don't have vision, you are not qualified for provision. I am hoping that as we share our stories, and you are going to hear a few more stories in the next few minutes, it is my fervent desire and hope first that someone will reach deep down and find that vision, find that dream that redefines them, that defines a new future. Secondly, it is my fervent hope that the one who already has a vision or dream will take a bold step, like I did then, and went on radio, even when I did not believe I was successful. And I was wondering, what authority do I have to teach people how to succeed? Should I not be successful first? I did it afraid. And now I look back 30 years later. I'm glad I did. I pray that your own dreams also will come to pass. Happy anniversary, Success Power. Welcome.
Dr. Sam Adeyemi.
Wow, please let's have a seat. Thank you so much. My good friend, Dr. Gabriel Ogbechie, amazing story. Help me to appreciate him specially, please. My desire, one of those days we were discussing, I said, what's the next level for you now? He said, impact, that's all. I'm not chasing more money. I just want to be able to affect more people. I said, let's do it together. Because I feel like our country would be better if we had 1,000 Gabriel Ogbechie. What do you think? Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you. Not only did he agree to speak, Rain Oil was one of the first sponsors, okay, to support us. Thank you, Cedric Nash, all the way from the United States. A mutual friend introduced us. The person said, I think you would like this guy. You need to talk. So the first time we spoke, I said, oh, we're on the same frequency. He says he's passionate about black people being wealthy. He knows mindset is it. He understands the values and the mindsets and the things that set our people back. And he said, I'm not chasing more money now. I just want to influence our people positively. And honestly, he told me, whenever you have the opportunity, if anything is happening in Nigeria, I want to come down and I'm ready to buy my own tickets. Now that's how passionate he is about it, right? Thank you, thank you. And I gave her a short notice. She said, I am booked to travel out of Nigeria on the 6th, but for you, I will move it to the 8th. Please appreciate my dear sister. Thank you. Focus their transformation efforts on factors outside of themselves. But then I found out if I could push the inside, the outside is designed to do everything possible to catch up with it. And then I bought Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. The day I bought it, it was all the money I had on me that I used to buy because I was really fascinated. Nobody had ever suggested that to me before. Think. All I ever knew was that you had to work hard and grow rich. And I saw think, if it's think, that's playing to my area of strength. Think, I can think, right? I bought it, but there were paradigm shifting things. I found that. I discovered the power of thought. That in the invisible world, thoughts are things. Thoughts have shape. Thoughts have form. Thoughts have value. Right? So I had to pay attention to that. When you read James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, one of the things you find there is how we humans form habits and how powerful habits are. That when a thought stays long enough in your conscious mind, it drops to the subconscious level. Once it drops there, it takes on a life of its own. It's like a seed in the soil. It just takes on a life of its own and puts your life on autopilot. We call it habit. Most people underestimate the power of that subconscious mind, they call it. Some of us call it heart. But heart, success, wealth creation, leadership, heart. So if you're really going to change your life, you need to go that deep. Changing the heart or the subconscious has entered your life and puts it on autopilot. Good. So that thing that enters through your eyes and through your ears, what are the words that we use for it? Knowledge, information. Let's work on information. I like to break up English words to understand. When you break information, what do you have? In and what? Formation. Oh wow, methodology. The shift message. Whatever you are seeing and hearing, I promise you, will not live your life the same. Especially if you are seeing and hearing it consistently. So if I ask today, what are the sources of information around us? The internet, right? Television, movies, books. You need to give your ears something new, something different to see. Exposure, travel. So these are the things that practically have transformed my own life. I usually talk about the books that I have read, so many of them that changed my life. Let me talk about the power of travel, for example. The first time my sweetheart and I traveled together out of Nigeria. I need to qualify it. It was not her first time of traveling out of Africa. It was my own first time of traveling out of Africa. Okay? She had been going. We went to Dubai. The day we arrived, we were taking a walk near the hotel. All of a sudden, I just held her. I just pulled her. Stop! He said, what is it? I said, look at it. She said, what? See? It became normal.
Yeah. No problem.
Bobby was talking about the experience that he read in Shifts. Yes, it happened in Milan. It happened at Milan. Yes, we booked 2 hotels. One was cheap, the other one was 5-star. If we went to the cheap one, we would have change to spend for shopping. If we went to the expensive one, no money for shopping. So we went to the cheap one. But as I stepped into the room, I shook my head. I told her I will not stay here. I said, I came all the way from the Shifts principle. The Shifts is an acronym for see consistently. So you can actually be intentional about what you see. Just make sure that you see it repeatedly if you want to reprogram yourself. Secondly, hear consistently. That's what the H stands for. The I stands for insight. If you take time to do deep reflection on what you're seeing and hearing, you'll be amazed at what your mind will do. It will find patterns. It will find connections, cause and effect connections. When you hear somebody's story and it inspires you, like you heard from our speakers already, it will be, okay, it's because he did this that he got that. Then you want to find out if that's a principle. Dr. Mensa Otabil said something many years ago that I really love. He said every experience in life is like the eating of a fruit. Most times we eat the fruit, we throw the seed away. He said, but if you planted that seed, it will grow into a tree and give you many more of that fruit. And to think. You've got to have time to meditate, have time to do deep reflection. You know what you are doing there? You're going down into that subconscious mind and you are bringing it out to this conscious level. That's where you unpack it. You have to go ask yourself, why do I think the way I think? Okay, so if this person did this and did that, how come that I did it but I did not get the same result? Why do I think the way I think? Why do I respond the way I respond? Right? That's the meditation. And then from that, you move to F. And Mrs. Aochika said it. The place where your life changes is the point where you make a decision. Dr. Gabriel Ogbechie made a decision. He did the reflection, realized my salary is 30,000. If I can do something else that can produce that amount of money, then I'm free from an employer. Right? Then he decided to be an entrepreneur. Decided, registered a business, even though he said he kept the certificate in a drawer for a few years, but he made up his mind. That point where you make up your mind is where your life changes. That's where a poor man becomes a rich man. That's it. That's where failure changes to success. It is your decision, not your condition, that determines your destiny. What is happening to you is happening to you. But how are you going to respond to it? That point where you make up your mind, that's where you change. That's where you become a new person. So at the point at which he decided to start a business, he became an entrepreneur inside, even though he was still an employee for a few years. Everybody is not what you see. We are different inside, depending on our decisions. Some people have been making decisions here today. Some people are making decisions already. So when you get inside, you make decisions. So we call that formulate. And then the T stands for transform. And that transformation comes when you take action, which is what Dr. Nike was talking about. Action. Somebody interviewed me recently. The place was packed out. We were surprised, right? It could see 70 people, about 100. They asked me, how was the seminar?
Fantastic.
People will not even find where to sit. That's life. Encourage yourself. There's always a first time, and you can grow from there. So the candidate that was with me said, sir, go ahead. I said, see the trees. See the trees. He said, sir, in our local language, Yoruba, he said, sir, very big. I see the tree. He said, confusing now. He said, there are no trees. I said, eh? He said, sir, that iron that I gave you, I chose it intentionally. When you get your swing right, he said, it picks the ball up over the obstacle and takes it to where it's supposed to go. So don't bother yourself about the tree. He said, just make sure that you get the shot. I said, thank you. The ball just went straight for the tree.
Because his mind was there.
Fail the first time, try again. So you get transformed when you take action, and then the S is success. The S in shift is success. You can put your success on repeat. You find what works, work on it, do it again and again and again and again. And you practice these shift principles, then you do, what you have is what we call personal leadership. Personal leadership. And because I've practiced these principles over and over and over again, I know how to repeat the process, right? And then in the book, I encourage for us to then apply these principles to the people we lead. Organizational shifts, right? So what do our managers, travels to Dubai with her family. Once I saw the impact that traveling had on our family, I began to insist that our staff had to go on vacation and to insist that they should try to travel out of this country and out of this continent. So one of them went. By the time she came back, she was a different person. Something shifted in her brain. So she began to see organization, make sure you share your vision, your mission, your values over and over and over and over, on repeat. People don't get it the first time. You got to have a solid training system. Anyway, there's a whole section on that in the book Shifts. But let me end here. Maybe the part of the book that I am most passionate about is the chapter on global shifts. And there, I apply the shift methodology to nations. I am fervently believing that there will be nations, including ours, that will apply the shift methodology and experience transformation. If I ask you, what are the institutions that actually influence what people see and hear consistently every day? The media. Thank you. The media is so powerful because when it is effective, it comes with strong emotion. The media is meant to create panic. It's meant to come with fear. With that, you don't even need to see repeat. Interestingly, the media is very powerful. They repeat the news on the top of the hour. Same thing. right? Which other institution? The schools, education, right? Which other one? The entertainment industry, right? Our daughter came home, our second daughter came home from school on break when she was in high school, and she requested for permission to come with one of her friends who came from Europe. The young lady came from Croatia. The young lady was speaking fluent English. So Dr. Nike asked the young lady, you did elementary school, primary education in your country. Did they teach you in English? She said, no, it was in Croatia. So where did you learn to speak English? She said, oh, by watching American movies. I wasn't part of the conversation, but my ears picked that. Because I'm all about programming. How do I change my heart, right? Then the young lady said they wanted to go to the mall. And on the way, they wanted us to pick another friend who was staying with a family. That one came from Vietnam. We picked the young lady. She was speaking pure American accent. So she asked the young lady, where did you learn to speak English? She said, oh, by watching American movies. The second time in the same day. I said, what? Hollywood is not a joke. Same with Nollywood. So, let me close on this. There is this class that I take at our Daystar Leadership Academy for teenagers. We run it only once in a year. It's a class on national development. And at some point, I asked the young people to watch, and we play a video. And that video, the beginning part of it, shows Nigeria the way it is, the undesirable side, and then shows what the new Nigeria will look like. I love the response of these young people to what they see. You can see, they shout, they scream, the chatter, the level of the chatter goes up in the room. So the big question is, can we be a bit more intentional? Can we provide the leadership that this country needs, that our nations need? Because I know there are people joining us from all over the world online. Can we be more intentional about shaping what people see and hear consistently every single day, and leveraging these principles to transform individuals, families, organizations, and nations? I would not have written the book Shift if I did not believe that these principles work. I want to fervently believe that we're going to see nations change in the next few. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. I want to encourage us today, because sometimes when you've been through difficult times, when you see all the obstacles and limitations around, it actually takes courage for you to even dare to dream. I challenge us to dare to dream of a better tomorrow for ourselves, our families, our organizations, and our nations. More than dreaming, I challenge us to take action, practical action. Build your influence, care for people, take the attention away from yourself, focus it on other people. Leadership is others-centric. Break free from self-centeredness, and let's make our world a better place. I hope to see you at the Shift Leadership Conference 2026 with exciting new stories and testimonies to share.
Please let's welcome on stage Dr. Gabriel Ogbechie, founder and CEO of Rain Oil.
The name Gabriel Ogbechie is reputable. Dr. Gabriel Ogbechie is the founder and CEO of Rain Oil Limited, a company that has redefined Nigeria's energy landscape. With nearly 30 years of experience, he turned a bold vision into a major player in the downstream sector. Beyond business, his passion for community impact drives initiatives in education, healthcare, and youth empowerment. Through the Gabriel Ogbechie Foundation and Rain Oil's CSR programs, he continues to give back, creating opportunities for the next generation. His journey from a young entrepreneur to an industry leader is nothing short of inspiring. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Gabriel Ogbechie.
Good morning, everyone. First and foremost, let me very specially congratulate and rejoice with our own Dr. Sam Adeyemi and his very lovely wife, Pastor Nike Adeyemi, for 30 years of success power. Can we please give them a round of applause? I remember it was about year 2001. I was driving on Ogbechie Link Bridge and I had my radio on and I was listening to this program called Success Power. And the voice of this man was just billowing out of my speakers. And he was talking to my soul. I got home and I called my wife and I said, I listened to a gentleman today called Sam Adeyemi. Do you know him? She said, yes. And that was what started our journey with the Daystar Christian Center. 24 years and counting. My wife and I and my entire family have been very ardent members of the church and very ardent listeners of Success Power. So today, we want to rejoice with Dr. Sam Adeyemi for what he has done, and most importantly, what God has used him to do in the body of Christ. Today, I'll be talking on a topic, entrepreneurial shifts. Entrepreneurial shifts. And I'll look at this topic today essentially by first and foremost looking at the entrepreneurship scene in Nigeria. The entrepreneurship scene in Nigeria, first and foremost, let's look at the SMEs, the small and medium enterprises, which are the economic powerhouses in Nigeria. The SMEs constitute about 96% of businesses in Nigeria. One of the things we always say is that if Nigeria is going to solve our very huge unemployment levels, I mean, in this country today we have unemployment that is kind of north of 30%. If we are going to solve that problem, we need to get a lot of people to go into entrepreneurship. And when we talk about entrepreneurship, essentially we're referring to companies, I mean very small companies that are employing one person, 2 people, 10 people, not necessarily companies that employ people in the thousands. Because more than 96% of businesses in Nigeria are actually SMEs. And these companies contribute more than 40% to the GDP of Nigeria, and they employ more than 84% of the workforce in Nigeria. One statistic that is also very important is that more than 50% of Nigerian entrepreneurs are actually under the age of 35. So it's actually the young people who are driving entrepreneurship in this country. And Nigeria today, we have more than 40 million SMEs. Now, what are my entrepreneurial shifts? I remember I left the University of Benin in 1987. I served in Kano. I joined a vegetable oil company in Kano called Sharada Edible Oils Limited. Worked there for 2 years, came down to Lagos, joined PricewaterhouseCoopers, spent another 2 years there before I joined another oil and gas company called Ascon Oil Company Limited. I was in paid employment earning 30,000 naira a month. One thing I told myself is that I needed to make a shift from being in paid employment into running my own business. And I kept it very simple. I asked myself, I was on a salary of 30,000 naira a month, and I asked myself, Gabriel, what else can you do to earn 30,000 naira a month? I asked myself that question because I knew that anything I could do to make that 30,000 naira a month would take the place of my job. You know, a lot of us, if you're in paid employment, let's even say you're working for Shell or you're working for Chevron, and they're paying you 2 million naira a month. Anything you can do between 8 to 5 to make that same 2 million naira a month can take the place of your job. So I asked myself, Gabriel, what else can you do to make 30,000 naira a month? And I said, if I can sell one truck of diesel, just one truck of diesel, I'll make 30,000 naira a month. A truck of diesel in 94, 95, 96, we were buying diesel for 9 naira per liter. We're selling it for 10 naira per liter. The margin was 1 naira. A truck of diesel, 30,000 liters. So if I make 1 naira on one truck of diesel, I was going to make 30,000 naira. So I told myself, Gabriel, even if you sell one truck of diesel and go home and sleep for 30 days, and come out after 30 days, collect your check, you will make 30,000 naira. A truck of diesel, 10 naira per liter, I needed 300,000 naira. I didn't have 300,000 naira. The first things first, I needed to incorporate a company, so my wife and I went to meet a friend of mine who is a lawyer and a pastor. We bandied names around, what name do we give to this company? Why don't we call it this oil? Why don't we call it that oil? And this lawyer and my friend said, Gabriel, why don't you call it rain oil? Rain stands for blessing. So I said, okay, Nefa, you know what? You're right. Instead of rain oil, let's merge rain and oil together to get one word. And that was how Rain Oil Limited was incorporated in November 1994. I took my certificate of incorporation, put it in my drawer. Recall again, I needed to raise how much? 300,000 naira. I didn't have the money. But I had a habit. Somebody was asking me this morning, how did you raise the capital? I said, I had a habit. My office was in a solo. I was doing a lot of job out of the NNPC depot in Ejibo. With as little as 2,000 naira, I will drive from a solo to Ikeja to go and meet my stockbroker who was on Bank Anthony Way in Ikeja. 2,000 naira, I was saying, Yemike, buy me 500 units of First Bank. With 1,500 naira, I will go to my stockbroker, Yemike, buy me 1,000 units of 7-Up. I was going through my capital market file not too long ago, and I saw a receipt of 500 naira with which I bought shares in a company called Aboseldehyde Laboratories. I don't know how many of you here ever remember that company. That company is defunct now. 500 naira, I bought shares in Aboseldehyde Laboratories. I saw another receipt of 1,000 naira with which I bought shares in a company called Poly Products PLC. I don't know if they are still in existence. Those receipts have all changed color now. They are all brown, but they are still there in my capital market file. I was investing in stock. So when I thought I could not raise the 300,000 naira, one night I was living in Egba that day, August 1996, I brought out my capital market file, and I started itemizing all the stock one by one. 1,000 units of 2,000 units of First Bank at 6 naira per share, 12,000 naira. I itemized all the stock. It went to 2 pages. By the time I summed it up, it came to 497,000 naira. Those were the days of share certificates, not the days of CSCS. I took my share certificates, I took them back to the same stockbroker. He verified the ones he could verify. He sold the ones he could sell. By the end of the day, I had my 300,000 naira. Having raised the 300,000 naira, I needed to go into the marketplace to validate my hypothesis, which is that if I sell a truck of diesel, I'll make how much? 30,000 naira. I identified a company in Ikeja called First Aluminium Nigeria PLC. Thankfully, they were able to give me an LPO. I supplied the first truck of AGO. Instead of making 30,000 naira, I made 45,000 naira. I collected my check. That was December 1996. January 1997, we did our second supply. This time it was to a company called Limca on Abimbola Way in Isolo. Limca paid us cash. They gave me a cash check drawn on Nigerian Arab Bank in Daleko, somewhere there. I still remember the bank. Cash the check, margin was 60,000 naira. The third supply was to United Spinners on Apapo Shode Expressway, somewhere in the Amuwo Dofi. Margin was 25,000 naira. So we kept supplying. Now we were playing at the very lowest end of the market, supplying petroleum products to prime industrial customers. We're supplying AGO, later LPFO, called low fuel oil. We're supplying to Nestle. We're supplying to Afprint. We're supplying to Nikemtex in Ikorodu. We're supplying to Liver Brothers, now called Unilever. We're supplying to all these companies, the Wahoo Group, Unico, and Co. Essentially, we were supplying petroleum products to prime industrial customers at the lowest end of the what? Of the market. The mark you, when you draw the pyramid, the bottom of the pyramid is crowded. So we got to a point where it dawned on us that we needed to make our first entrepreneurial shift. Two things prompted that shift. Two things. Number one, as we were making money and we were trading, at some point we started bringing in LPFO from Kaduna. One day I went to a place called Second Gate in Ikeja. We had like 5 trucks of LPFO all packed. One thing dawned on me, we had started over trading. I had a truck that had stayed for like 1 week and we didn't know. I mean, we had supplied all our customers, yet we had not exhausted the stock we had. So a company called Segitex, somewhere in Ilupeju, gave us an order to supply them LPFO. My instinct told me, Gabriel, this company, they can't pay. Another instinct says, Gabriel, then you have to supply this product. Against better judgment, we delivered the product. It took us like 9 months to collect that money. At some point, they offered us textiles. Later, you want your money, come take cloth. So you learn your lesson. Another thing was, I was driving on a background one day, and I saw that they had dug up the road, and they had laid pipes on the road. And I asked, what are those pipes for? He said, they're going to supply gas to the companies. I said, what are they going to use the gas for? He said, it's to fire their boilers. I said, that means they won't buy our LPFO again. At that point, I knew LPFO was an endangered product. I called my team. I said, the time to shift has come. We needed to get out of the bottom of the pyramid. So, we needed to build our first petrol station. I identified a place in Igbodo in Delta State, bought a parcel of land for 120,000 naira, and started building our first petrol station. People ask me, why do you go to Igbodo to build a petrol station? I said, because that was what we could afford. The land was 120,000 naira. That was what we could afford. Cut your coat according to your cloth or size. So we started building the station. There was something very interesting that happened when we were building this. When we're building this station, you know, when you don't have money, you're actually very creative, right? So we're building the station through combination of direct labor and contracting. One day we went to, I would drive from Lagos to Igbodo. So we get there, I had a driver there, God bless him, wherever he is. So when we get there, we will park. Because I know that maybe we are there from 9 a.m. and we're not going out until the end of the day. When I hire laborers to carry concrete, me said I will carry wheelbarrow and be pushing concrete. Can you relate to that? I was pouring concrete. So I will look at my driver. My driver, he was a big man. He will sit down and cross his leg. So I called him one day. I said, Francis, come. He said, these laborers, I'm paying them, let me say for argument's sake, 1,000 naira a day. Follow them to work. I will pay you 1,000 naira when I'm paying them. This is outside your salary. Because while we are here, we are not going anywhere, correct? Me, I'm pushing concrete. You cross leg. The guy said, no, you can't do that. So I ignored him. One day around 2 o'clock, he came to me and said, okay, I'm hungry, let's go and eat. I said, you go and eat. You need to have the right attitude. Ipaja. That petrol station was offered to us for the princely sum of 12.5 million naira in 2001. So we bought the station. I remember 2 days after we bought that petrol station, a senior colleague in the industry saw me and called me and said, come, you are Reno Elabi? I said, yes. I heard you paid 12.5 million naira for that base station. And you... Can you fill in the gap? How can you pay 12.5 million naira for that property? I smiled. We've run that property now, that petrol station now for 24 years. If we put that property in the market today, we won't sell it for 500 million naira. It's too small. The lesson there for me is that on the back of the retail business, it's actually a massive real estate business. You never go wrong with it. We bought that petrol station, we started running it, then we built another petrol station in Agege. So we had 2 stations in Lagos, then we had a good problem. These stations were selling about 20,000 liters of fuel a day, and we were struggling to meet up the supply. We had become independent marketers. NNPC was giving us, on the average, let's say, on a monthly basis, you will get 3 trucks of PMS, that's petrol. We needed to make yet another shift to do what? To go up the pyramid, because again, the bottom of the pyramid is what? Crowded. We needed to get out of that bottom of the pyramid. So we re-strategized. And what was the strategy? We realized that NNPC, which was the major supplier, was giving to what we call the major marketers then. They were giving the major marketers far more fuel than they needed, and we were giving the independent marketers like us far less fuel than we needed. So we said, okay, what we're going to do is align with a major marketer. How do you align with a major marketer? So we identified one of the major marketers called Unipetrol then, and said, okay, we have 2 petrol stations in Lagos. Let's affiliate one of them to Unipetrol and keep one as Reno. So we did that. Essentially, what that entailed was that we're going to share margins that we're going to run under their franchise. So I remember after we flipped the station in Ipaja from Reno to Unipetrol, I refused to visit that facility. I refused. One day, as I drove to the place, as I was approaching the station, and I didn't see rain oil, and instead I saw Unipetrol, my heart sank. Can you relate to that? Got a great strategy, poorly executed. What's your strategy? Have a strategy, execute it with military precision. So what we did was to say, okay, fine. In Lagos, we have two stations. One is Unipetrol, one is Rain Oil. So we went to Asaba, we got two petrol stations. We brand one Unipetrol, which of course have changed their name to the company that acquired it. We brand one Unipetrol, we brand one Rain Oil. We went to the east, we got two petrol stations, we brand one Unipetrol, we brand one Rain Oil. Went to Kaduna, we got two petrol stations, we brand one Unipetrol, we brand one Rain Oil. So what has happened now is that by doing this, we now have more than enough fuel nationwide to keep these petrol stations and every other Rain Oil petrol station in the network wet and have more than enough to now become suppliers to other people. Suddenly, Rain Oil that was struggling to get fuel, we were now the ones people were calling to supply fuel to them. A lot of people didn't understand the strategy. But it was a strategy, and it was a strategy very well executed. So we're now expanding the Rain Oil network nationwide, but as we were expanding it, we always ensured that we had an anchor with which to support the entire network. And then to also do that, we started investing in trucking to be able to support the entire system. Sorry, I can't see a timer, so I'm not being guided. That was when it dawned on me that we have become a factor. At that point, we settled. But the problem with settling and the problem with growth, especially when you're growing laterally, is that at some point, growth becomes more difficult. You now need to do what again? We now needed to shift and go up the pyramid. Why? The bottom of the pyramid is crowded. I was in my office one day, a gentleman who I had employed into Ascon Oil just before I left, walked into my office. His name is Lawrence Komolafe. Lawrence looked at me and said, Oga, you know this bulk business you're doing, you don't pass this business. So you need to build a depot. I said, where can I build a depot? He said, there's a place called Orara in Delta State. You need to go there and build a depot. That feedback got to me. I gave him 50,000 naira. I said, go and explore the place and come back. So he traveled to Orara, looked at the place, came back and said, okay, I've seen the place. You can build a depot there. So two of us traveled there. We got there, sourced for a parcel of land, got it. We commissioned Orara. Orara was doing very well. So to relate with it, it's like you were buying petroleum products in trucks. Now you're buying it in shipload. That's the difference. So imagine you used to buy one truck, 5 trucks. Now you're getting a shipload of like 20 million liters. Like 500 trucks in one ship. Even though we're doing very well in Orara, within a year of commissioning Orara, we started looking for land in Calabar to build another petroleum storage depot. By 2015, we had commissioned a petroleum storage depot in Calabar. Even though we started doing very well in Calabar, by 2019, we started looking for another parcel of land in Lagos to build yet another petroleum storage depot. Because when you have a strategy, what do? You implement it. We implement the strategy. At some point, Rain Oil was the only downstream oil and gas company that I know that own 3 tank farms in 3 different parts of the country. We're in Calabar, we're in Orara, we're in Lagos. So we have the whole country covered when you come to distribution. Wherever you are, we can meet your petroleum product need. Again, shift. And that shift is to now massively grow our retail footprint. That at some point we launched what you call the Project 150. Project 150 is to say we want to have 150 petrol stations spread across this country. When we launched that project, when I called my management team and we launched that project, some of them thought that, how are we going to achieve this? And I said, no, by December the following year, I want us to be at 150 petrol stations. And by the grace of God, by December the following year, we have crossed 150 petrol stations across the country. We've gone on to do Project 200, which we have also hit. Now we are on the Project 400, which by the grace of God, I know we will achieve. Because again, you need to stay on entrepreneurial shift. What's the next thing we did? One thing you must never, or one thing we must always be mindful of is what is going to disrupt your business. What's going to disrupt the business? Between 2011 and 2015, one major product, which was the mainstay of the downstream oil and gas, is a product called DPK. Everybody wanted DPK. DPK, dual-purpose kerosene, or otherwise the household kerosene. Everybody wanted DPK. So much so that some people were making investments based on what I call the DPK economics. Then by 2015, we saw the demand for DPK go down and the demand for LPG rise up. Of course, as people who are very perceptive of what is happening around us, by 2016, I called my team and I said, we need to start building an LPG facility. By 2019, we had completed an 8,000 metric ton LPG facility in Ijebu. By 2020, we had commissioned it, and today we are massively playing in the LPG space. Now, regardless of what you do, a time comes when you ask yourself, what next? Because entrepreneurship shift is, you get to a point, you now need to go into what I call diversification. First and foremost, we looked at the space and felt that we needed to do an acquisition to achieve what I call the quantum leap. We scanned the oil and gas space. We identified a company called Eternal PLC, which was quoted in the stock exchange. And 3 years ago, by the grace of God, we invested and acquired that company, which today is a member of the Rain Oil Group. Between then and now, we have invested in other sectors of the economy. One thing a lot of people don't know is that we are heavily into agriculture as well. As of today, we have a 3,000 hectare palm plantation in Delta State, fully planted and flourishing. 3,000 hectares with a 10 ton per hour oil mill. Now, what are the critical levers of success as I close? I understand I have just about 3 minutes. The critical levers of success is, first and foremost, you need a lot of financial discipline. You can't be a very successful businessman if you don't have financial discipline. I tell people, you must be able to see money and keep your cool. You must be able to see money and keep your cool. If you can't control money, then you can't run a successful business. Then you need a positive work culture. You need a very positive work culture. I remember when I just started Rain Oil and I had an office at number 1 Anega Akpeno Street in Ikeja. I always go to work at 8 in the morning, even when I know that today I have nothing to do. 8 a.m. I'm in my office. And I was resumed from the office. I will get to the office. I was the only one. I was the MD, I was the accountant, I was the driver, I was the messenger, I was everything rolled into one. I was the only one in the office. But I will get to the office at 8 a.m., I will open the door, I will enter, I will sit down. Even if it's newspaper I have to read, I will read newspaper, but I have to be in that office. You must have a work culture. It is very, very important. Don't become too big to control yourself. You know, a lot of people try very well when people tell them what to do. You know that if you go late, somebody's going to give you a query. But the time to actually be very disciplined is when there's nobody telling you what to do. You're the one controlling yourself. Nobody's going to give you a query. If you like, come to work at 12 o'clock. Nobody's going to tell you why did you come to work at 12 o'clock. But you know what? The P&L will punish you at the end of the day. The P&L never lies. You need to be disciplined. You know, you need to retain talent. Every organization is just as good as the quality of manpower they have. I tell people, the most important thing Rain Oil has, it's not the petrol stations, it's not the trucks, it's not the depots. It's the people. If you take the people out of the equation, there is no company. So you must retain talent, and you must be very deliberate about attracting and retaining the best talent within the organization. Attract and retain. You need to maintain a long-term perspective. A long-term perspective. Business is a marathon, it's not a sprint. Today, success power is 30 years. And it's just like yesterday. 30 years. Rain Oil today is 27, going 28 years. So you have to take a long-term view of whatever you are doing. Take a very long-term view. So, which is why when I see people in business, they cut corners, they don't honor their obligations, they make little commitments, they can't honor it because of short-term win. I say these guys are not taking a long-term view of things. You just can't go far with that kind of attitude. If you make a commitment, honor it. Long term, it will be to your best interest. Then, of course, you need to be very, very hardworking. You need to be very hardworking. Not just hardworking, you need to go into the realm of what I call grit. Grit, you need to have that fire in your stomach. That fire in your stomach that gets you going, even when nothing seems to be happening. Knowing that failure is just not an option. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.